Yes.
When I'm told about this, well, Richard and I did this at Central Hall with Scruton and that very weird team that we debated, who kept on saying, Scruton particularly, well, what about good old Gothic spires and so forth. I said, look, I wrote a book about the Parthenon. I'm intensely interested in it. I think everyone should go, everyone should study, and so forth. But everyone should abstain from the cult of Pallas Athena. Everyone should realize that probably what that sculptural frieze that's so beautiful describes may involve some human sacrifices. Athenian imperialism wasn't all that pretty even under Pericles. So the great cultural project, in other words, may very well be to rescue what we have of the art and aesthetic of religion while discarding the supernatural.
And I think acknowledging the evil that was part of its creation in the first place. That is, we can't condone the beliefs and practices of those Aztecs, but we can stand in awe of and want to preserve their architecture and many other features of their culture, but not their practices and not their beliefs.
I once did a British radio program called Desert Island Discs, where you have to go on and choose your 6 records which you take to a desert island and talk about it. And one of the ones I chose was Bach, Mache dich mein Herz rein.
Oh, yes.
It's wonderful,
Beautiful
sacred music. And the woman questioning me couldn't understand why I would wish to have this piece of music.
Pious.
Beautiful music, and its beauty is indeed enhanced by knowing what it means.
Yeah.
But you still don't actually have to believe it. It's like reading fiction.
Exactly.
You can lose yourself in fiction and be totally moved to tears by it.
Yes.
But nobody would ever say you've got to believe that this person existed and that the sadness that you feel really reflected something that actually happened.
Yes, like the Bishop of Dublin who preached a sermon against Swift and said that he'd read every book of Gulliver's Travels, and for his part he didn't believe a word of them.
Yes.
So that's the locus classicus, I think, of all that. Well, clearly we're not cultural vandals, but maybe we should think of the way in which so many people suspect that that's what we are.
Yes.
If I would accept one criticism that these people make, or one suspicion that I suspect they harbour, or fear that they may have, I think that might be the one.
Yes.
Right.
That it would be all chromium and steel and
Yes,
and
very
no
much
Christmas
so.
carols and no
Yes.
and no menorahs.
They couldn't possibly. Anybody who makes that criticism couldn't possibly have read any one of our books.
No. Well, that's another problem too,
which is
isn't
another
it?
problem.
Is that the people that, of course, this isn't just our books; it's so many books. People don't read them; they just read the reviews and then they decide that's what the book.
we're about to have the Christmas wars again, of course, and this being the last day of September. Yeah, you can feel it all coming on. But I always, whenever it comes up, when I go on any of these shows to discuss it, I say it was Oliver Cromwell who cut down the Christmas trees and forbade. It was the Puritan Protestants, the ancestors of the American fundamentalists,
it's the Bamiyan
Christmas
Buddhas
would be
again.
blasphemy.
Yes.
Do at least respect your own traditions, because I do.
Yes.
I think Cromwell was a great man in many other ways as well.
Right.
This is actually a pagan festival.
Well, we were all outed with our Christmas trees last year.
Yes, we had our. Did
I
you
have
see
not the
that?
slightest problem with Christmas trees.
No, we had our Christmas card with our pictures of
It's
us.
a good old Norse booze up. And why the hell not?
Right.
Well, but it's not just that. I mean,
I like solstices as much as the next person.
we have an annual Christmas carol party where we sing the music and all the music with all the words and not the secular
And
Christmas
why
stuff.
not? Yes.
And it's just glorious stuff. That part of the Christian story is fantastic. It's just a beautiful tale, and you can love every inch of it.
I once at lunch was next to the lady who was on our opponent at that debate in London,
Rabbi Neuberger.
Rabbi Neuberger, and she asked me whether I said grace in New College when I happened to be senior fellow. And I said, of course I say grace. It's a matter of simple courtesy. And she was furious.
Oh, really?
That I should somehow be so hypocritical as to say grace. And I could only say, well, look, it may mean something to you, but it means absolutely nothing to me. This is a Latin formula which has some history, and I appreciate history. Freddie Eyre, the philosopher, also used to say grace, and what he said was, I won't utter falsehoods, but I've no objection to uttering meaningless statements.
Yes.
Right, that's very good. The Wickham professor.
Yes,
The Wickham professor,
yes.
Professor, an old friend. Did we answer your question on Islam?
I don't know. I think it's... Well, I'll ask a related question. Do you feel there's any burden we have as critics of religion to be even-handed in our criticism of religion, or is it fair to notice that there's a spectrum of religious ideas and commitments, and Islam is on one end of it, and the Amish and the Jains and others are on another, and there are real differences here that we have to take seriously?
Well, of course we have to take them seriously, but we don't have to do the network balancing trick all the time. There are plenty of people taking care of pointing out the good stuff and the benign stuff, and we can acknowledge that and then concentrate on the problems. That's what critics do. And again, it's, if we were writing books about the pharmaceutical industry, would we have to spend equal time on all the good they do? Or could we specialize in the problems? And I think it's very clear.
I think Sam's asking more about...
We could criticize Merck if they were especially egregious as opposed to some other company. I mean, if we were focusing on the pharmaceutical industry, not all pharmaceutical businesses would be culpable in the same way.
Right. Well, and so then the question is, what? Should we? Is there something wrong with?
No, I think you're talking at cross purposes. I think Sam's asking about whether we should be even-handed in criticizing the different religions. You're talking about even-handedness about good versus bad. And
whether all religions are equally bad.
Yes, whether Islam is worse than Christianity or
I mean, it seems to me that we fail to enlist the friends we have on this subject when we balance this. I mean, it's a tactic. It's a media tactic, and in some sense, it's almost an ontological commitment of atheism to say that all faith claims are in some sense equivalent. You know, the media says that Muslims have their extremists, and we have our extremists. We have jihadists in the Middle East, and we have
there's an imbalance there.
People who kill abortion doctors, and it's just not a real equation. I mean, the mayhem that's going on under the aegis of Islam just cannot be compared to the fact that we have two people who a decade kill abortionists, and so I think my commitment. I mean, this is one of the problems I have with the concept of atheism. Is I just think it hobbles us in this discourse where we have to seem to kind of spread the light of criticism equally in all directions at all moments, and I think we could, on any specific question, have a majority of religious people agree with us. I mean, a majority of people in this country, in the United States, clearly agree that the doctrine of martyrdom in Islam is appalling and not benign and liable to get a lot of people killed and worthy of criticism. Likewise, the doctrine that souls live in petri dishes. Even Christians, even 70% of Americans don't want to believe that in light of the promise of stem cell research. So it seems to me once we focus on particulars, we have a real strength of numbers, and yet when we stand back from the ramparts of atheism and say it's all bogus, we lose 90% of our neighbors.
Well, I'm sure that's right. On the other hand, my concern is actually not so much with the evils of religion as whether it's true. And I really do. I mean, I care passionately about that. The fact of the matter is there, as a matter of fact, a supernatural creator in this universe, and I really care about that. And so, although I also care about the evils of religion, I'm prepared to be even-handed because they all make this claim, which seems to me equally.
I would never give up the claim that all religions are equally false, and for that reason, because they they're false by preferring faith to reason. Latently, at least, equally dangerous.
But equally false, but surely not quite equally dangerous because of...
No, latently I think so, because,
latently, maybe,
because of the surrender of the mind.